Black floods in, the score drops half a register, and white letters begin climbing out of the dark. This is the part of the cinema experience nobody plans to think about, not the film. The few minutes right after it when the story is over, but the room hasn't quite caught up yet. One group rises the instant the frame goes dark. For them, the film was a delivery. Received, complete, finished. A smaller group stays seated and watches a column of unfamiliar job titles scroll past in silence. That second group isn't lingering out of obligation. They're listening to something that hasn't technically stopped. The scroll looks like wallpaper, white text on black, even spacing. No faces, no drama. But the uniformity is a kind of disguise. Further down, the titles shrink and get stranger key grip. Script supervisor, caterer, title designer. None of these names will mean anything to the audience. But a film isn't built by its visible half. It's built by all of it at once, sometimes by hundreds of people, most of whom will never appear on a poster. For 2 or 3 minutes, the credit roll does something nothing else in the cinema does. It makes the invisible labor visible. A good film doesn't release its grip the moment the plot resolves. For 2 hours, it pulled the audience somewhere else entirely, and that kind of absorption carries weight. When the story ends, the natural motion is to keep moving out of the dark, into the lobby, back toward the life that got paused to make room for it. Staying seated means resisting that pull on purpose. Several filmmakers have described this stretch not as marketing space, but as decompression, a place for the mind to surface slowly instead of breaking the water all at once. The names roll, the music keeps breathing, and the audience is given somewhere to land before the real world reasserts itself. Among people who actually make films, the credits come up again and again as something closer to ritual than paperwork. One professor reportedly told a student that skipping them meant the film wasn't finished yet, the names were part of the work, not an appendix stapled to the end of it. A well-known film composer has called certain credit sequences essential rather than optional, pointing to one film whose closing scroll, set against its score, became inseparable from everything the story had just put the audience through. Even directors famous for visual spectacle have spoken with unexpected tenderness about building a credit sequence, less a contractual requirement, more a last brushstroke. None of this asks much of the audience. No memorizing, no researching unfamiliar titles. By the time the last studio logo fades and the legal text appears, something has already shifted. The ending doesn't arrive as a cut, it arrives as a fade. A held note losing volume rather than stopping. The credits are the bridge between total immersion and ordinary life. Almost no one leaves a theater repeating the name of a sound mixer or a costume assistant. The credits aren't built to be remembered. A film is rarely the work of one visionary, however the poster might suggest otherwise. It's closer to a long relay, handed from department to department, each one adding something the others couldn't. The credits are the only moment where that relay becomes visible at all, even if it's only a list of strangers' names, gone again in a few minutes. Staying for them costs almost nothing. Understanding what they represent costs even less, and yet hardly anyone does either. Which might be exactly why the few who stay walk out carrying something the rest of the room doesn't. A quiet, accurate sense of how much it actually takes to make 2 hours disappear so completely into someone else's story.